How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We are looking at Workhorse today because there was some news that came out today about how they are eligible for another voucher. So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to talk to you about what this means, why this is kind of really important in the long term. So I don't think a lot of people are thinking about this necessarily enough. And you can kind of see that by the fact that Workhorse was actually down about 2.5% today. And we've gone over why it keeps on going down, right? Just the fact that a lot of short-term investors are trying to get out of the stock because they don't want to have to hold on to it through elections and through the holidays and wait another couple months to really see whether we get the USPS contract. A lot of them are trying to sell out now, buy back in later. So I think we're going to see a run up. But I want to go over what happened today because, again, this is another piece of news that has come out about Workhorse that is positive. I mean, they haven't really come out with too much bad news, let's be honest. So if you guys like this, please leave a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It means a lot for me and it means a lot for the channel. We have some big news that is coming out soon. You might have actually already heard about it, depending on when you're watching this. But like is very appreciated. Also, if you want to support in another way, you can check out the links down below. You can get 2 free stocks through WeBull. They are running this for another week and a half or so, where you can get 2 free stocks worth up to $1,600 if you deposit $100. So I really appreciate that. And let's get into it here. So Workhorse was down about 2.5% today, but we did get some good news. So Workhorse C-Series vehicles receive voucher eligibility from New York. So they have a voucher incentive program, and we've talked about this with HVIP and California, how they're giving vouchers for people that are eligible for it. And you can see here, to receive the full voucher amount, vehicle purchasers must replace or scrap an existing diesel-powered vehicle for each NYT VIP eligible vehicle in its place. So this is pretty exciting. You can see here that the standard range has a voucher of about $48,000 and the extended range has about $44,000 per vehicle. So we found out that their vehicles are probably right in the $55,000 to $65,000 range. So that makes it very affordable for companies to buy these. And we've talked about before, and obviously you probably know that there's a lot of savings on the back end, right? So just not having as much maintenance, not having to pay as much in fuel, that is huge. And if we can bring down the cost right up front, that's going to be huge. As we saw in California is allowing these buyers to buy at that decreased price. It's not like they have to get a rebate or get money sent back or anything like that. I'm not sure how this is run, but as you can see here, the CEO, Dwayne Hughes, says being able to sell our vehicles through the NYT VIP will enable us to dramatically reduce the sales price of our C-Series vehicles to eligible purchasers, which should be a material positive contributor to new sales going forward. So it was up about 2% pre-market. We fell down through the day. This is something that we've talked about here, right? So Steve Schrader actually mentioned this just a few days ago, and I actually did a video on it, and I can link it here. But in this interview a few days ago, there were 2 important things. First of all, the guy from TDA asked him, okay, do these vehicles make sense for your company without the incentives, without the vouchers, without all these tax incentives, right? And Steve Schrader said, yes, they do. We can still make money at the current price point without those. So that's just kind of gravy, right? That's just icing on the cake. The other thing that Steve Schrader said, which is the second part of this, was that they have those HVIP incentives. And then he brought up New York. So he talked about New York incentives, which is what we just saw today. Now, the reason I feel like this is so important, and maybe people are downplaying this a little bit, is the fact that New York is ginormous, right? In terms of population, it's enormous. But everything is so compact. I think this is where people aren't really realizing the amount of last mile delivery trucks or final mile delivery vehicles in New York is going to grow massively. There's a high volume that is needed there now. When you think about how dense New York is and how many people live there, how many people are purchasing things online, this is from NewYork.gov. It's talking about how New York City relies on trucks for the last mile of delivery. If you look here at the graphic, there are 8.6 million people in New York, and they're expecting it to grow by about 6.4% over the next 25 years. they're already so packed in there, it's hard to even pack more in there. But they say here they rely on about 186 million freight tons that are moved throughout New York. They are expecting this to grow dramatically, about 68% over the next 25 years. They are talking about how e-commerce is increasing too. E-commerce is rapidly growing and now accounts for about 9.5% of retail sales, up from about 3.3% in 2008. So it's pretty much tripled over the last 12 years. And this is actually old data here. You can see 2017 is the last year. I expect this, especially with the pandemic and with everyone being so close together there, this is only going to increase dramatically, right? We are turning into more e-commerce sales and really leaning towards the internet to satisfy our shopping needs a lot more these days. Between them wanting to get into refrigeration too, and just wanting to service New York, right? Being able to provide them with the vehicles they need. I think this is a huge opportunity and a huge thing that people are sleeping on, right? So even just talking about it, it is insane the amount of potential that we have in New York, especially when you consider, California is kind of spread out. Sure, they might need their vehicles to go a little bit further, right? They might need a greater range, but in New York, everything's so packed in and there's so much volume there. They're going to need a lot of vehicles, I think. So I want to hear your thoughts below. Again, I think that this is just a massive opportunity here. I'm really excited to see where this goes. And I'm curious if they're going to continue to increase this, if there are a lot of other states that have these kinds of incentive programs. I think New York and California are kind of on the cutting edge. There's a lot of possibility here. In the end, it just kind of comes down to how good are their vehicles? Are they reliable? Are they low maintenance? I think that's going to be the major thing that sets them apart, because right now there are a couple other EV vans, and one of them, Rivian, is partnered up with Amazon, right? If they are able to produce a good vehicle, that's going to be some tough competition for Workhorse. I mean, those companies are so much bigger when you consider their joint assets, right? But I think Workhorse definitely has a fighting chance, especially if they can get more of these incentives and get their foot in the door into a lot of these bigger companies in these bigger cities. So let me know your thoughts below. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you don't mind hitting the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.